We're live, Expert35. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia. And as promised, we got experts from 35 different industries talking about the challenges, the hardships, and the opportunities. And today we're going to be talking about the biggest market, the real estate market, because there's opportunities left and right. It's not a buyer's, it's not a seller's, it's a market. And it is moving. So I'm bringing back some of my OG experts. Jennifer Johnson, you're coming back as a realtor, concierge realtor. Thanks for being back on the show.
Thank you.
And our expert mortgage broker, Craig Levin, who's still doing jumbo loans and still doing everything in his power to get you into a house. Craig, thanks for being back on the show.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Guys, I'm going to take your names off because it's a little bit hard. Here we go. Text Expert35 if you want to join the conversation. Text Expert22 if you want to get a loan and learn more about the process from Craig Levin. And Expert28 if you want a concierge realtor. Before we jump into that, Jennifer, I love what you do. Tell us what concierge realty is.
Well, and it's so good to be back. You know, this is my favorite thing. Concierge means that I take care of all the back end stuff. Like you never have to leave work or change your schedule. I book the trades that come. I book the plumber, the painter, if you need that stuff done, or I'll meet the inspector at the house. You never have to change your schedule because I take care of it all. I facilitate it, book it, and meet them there.
And just shout out, you took care of my parents. They're so happy. And I mean, they went through other realtors, right? And I finally said, no, you got to talk to Jennifer. And I think a lot of it, that's why you're on the show, is because you're going to not just tell us what to do, how did you help someone get into a house, but also what are you doing as a realtor to get people in the house? So thank you for what you do.
Your parents are sweet.
And Craig, mortgage broker, tell us a little bit about licensing, states. What is it that you do?
So as a mortgage loan consultant, I'm doing loans. I work for a small bank, and we do loans in all 50 states. We offer jumbo portfolio products here in Texas. I have a lot of niche products, such as jumbo loans up to $3 million. Some low down payment jumbo loans as well, physician loans, 100% construction loans, one-time close construction loans. That's really my bread and butter here in Houston. But in general, those niche products are for Texas, and I do everything else across the nation as well.
Excellent. No, and so good having you guys on the show because it's not buying a house isn't just like, hey, I want this house. Is you got to have the money, you have to have the financials in place, but you also have to have the expertise to make sure that what you're buying is really what you're getting, right? Jennifer, tell us about the market, like how crazy it is. And right now we're talking mostly Texas, Houston, Texas, but it's applying everywhere. I mean, I'm up in Colorado and I'm going through the same thing where, oh, wow, like I put in a bid, I was the third bid, and they now have multiple bids behind us, even though we're under contract. So tell me a little bit of what you're seeing.
Properties are flying off the market. If you're priced well, it's going to go. There's some sweet spots like the 500 to 700,000. Anything under 3, it's off the market in days. If it's priced right, it's going to move. So you've got to be prepared. Talk to your realtor and listen to this person.
Right. So tell us what that means. I mean, be prepared. I mean, what? I'm ready to buy a house. I'm ready. What does that mean?
Well, that means, first of all, you need to get pre-qualified. You need to talk to your loan officer. Craig Levin is an excellent loan officer. I will never use anyone else. Shameless plug for him. But you need to know how much you can afford, so then you can go search properties. It's the most important step. I really don't care for showing properties unless I know what your budget is, because you're going to find something you love and you can't afford it. That's just
right.
It's too much. Yeah.
And so be pre-approved. What about, like, I mean, in terms of location, real estate, like what are things that you should really ask someone, or they should already know before they're going in there? And like, they should know what part of town they want to be in, schools. Like, I mean, what are the big questions?
Well, sometimes, if you've got people moving in from out of town, I suggest go driving the city. If you know what, I will steer them what they're looking for, what their lifestyle wants. I will steer them in certain parts of this town. Oh, the Heights is fun, or Oak Forest, Garden Oaks, West U. It just, you have to. Finding a home is a process of elimination, but you can cut through the chase if you ask really good questions and really listen to what people want. And
right.
if you need to explore, some people say, I want to live right here on this block. And I'm like, okay, well, that's very narrow focus. That will help eliminate a lot of searching around. But sometimes you just need to drive during the night, drive during the day, and drive during traffic and see what the neighborhood is
And
like.
how important is like flexibility right now? I mean, if somebody's like, hey, if they're making an offer, they got to be ready to be like, hey, this guy wants to sell now, they close, and now you got to be able to move in, or like how flexible or how rigid do you need to be in your planning?
Well, you just need, if you find something you love, you've pre-approved, you need to be prepared to make an offer and act on it. Don't, if it's a hot market, don't dilly-dally. And if there's one
Yeah.
thing you don't like in the house, like a paint color, you can change that. Don't let
Yes.
cosmetic issues get in your way. You can, that is easy. I know a great painter. So that, just be prepared and be ready to act.
Yeah, and be ready to put some money down, right? Because you have to put you have to have the cash at least for the escrow, right? For the to be able to get into the contract, the earnest money. You got to get into the earnest money, so you got to have that cash in hand. Like right now, we're going through a property, and we're like moving money around because you got to be putting down what kind of percentages. Well, I mean that's questions for Craig. Craig, we'll chime in on this a little bit, right? In terms of pre-approval, oh, let me put you back on camera. In terms of pre-approvals, because that's like the big one, right? If you don't have the money, don't go looking at that house. Don't go wasting the realtor's time. And, it's just wishing, right? What are the things that they'll need to make sure that they can get into that house?
Right. So definitely get pre-approved. I can't tell you how many people come to me and say, I'm under contract for a house. And then I pull their credit and I get their income documentation. They can't afford that house.
Right.
So devastating, right? So get pre-approved first. When you get it pre-approved, I'm going to pull your credit. I got to verify your income and I got to verify your assets. And those three things will determine can you afford the house or not, and how much you can afford. From there, we talk about how much do you want to put down. Right now in Houston, this is actually county specific, okay? But in Houston, for example, if you're a first-time home buyer, you could buy a home up to $510,000, $400, with only 3% down.
Crazy.
3% down.
That's amazing.
And that rate is amazing.
And let's say, actually, this is interesting. I didn't know what that number was so important, but $1 above that is considered a jumbo loan, right? Greg, I think we lost you.
I lost you there for a second.
$1 above that $400 is considered jumbo, right?
Yeah. So at $510,401.
Yeah, 1 cent
is now jumbo. So you look, you can still buy a house that's $520. You put down the 3%, it gets you under that $510,400. But you just want to be under that number, under that $510,400, and that's conforming. And again, anything above it is jumbo. And then listen, I do have low down payment jumbo loans. I could do 10% down to a loan amount up to $650, which means you can buy a house in the low 700s, around $720. Put down 10% and get a house. Loan amount would be $650, and then we could even do 10% down up to $1.5 million, which is amazing because again, rates are so low. So people who could have only afforded a house that was say $800,000 2 years ago can now maybe afford a $900 or $1 million house based on today's rates.
Well, and let's be totally honest. This is Houston. The house 2 years ago that was that price is now worth that 2 years because the property values are going up, right? So move. I mean, this is a market to really like take advantage of the rates. Get into the house that you want. Jennifer, I want you to chime in on a question we have from Jana. Jana's saying like, hey, you're ready to buy. How many different types of inspections should you have, right? Because it's a big purchase. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, definitely get it inspected, whatever you do. And even if the guy goes, no, the house is perfect. No, get an inspection. You'll get to really see the nuts and bolts of what's going on in the house. And it's not going to catch everything, but it will see the big issues: foundation, the roof, the AC, any leaks in the plumbing. So definitely a broad inspection. And if it's had water in it before, or a good inspector suspects there's water in it, get a mold inspection just for your peace of mind, because you want to know that ahead of time.
And those inspections, Craig, those inspections, do they affect the appraising, or does the appraisal do its own inspections and don't listen to those?
Yeah, so the property inspection really doesn't involve the financing unless there's an issue that brings us in. If somebody writes on the contract, um, must replace roof. Well, then now we're involved because we know there's a new roof. If it doesn't say that, we don't know. But
Right.
the appraiser doesn't inspect for damage. But he will comment if there's things that are obvious. If he can look on the street and see the roof is in poor condition, he'll write roof's in poor condition. If he sees there's water leaks on the roof, he can write in there's water leaks on the roof. But he's not there to actually, check out the pipes and all that kind of stuff. That's not what he's doing. And then there's different appraisals. FHA and VA have different requirements than a conventional loan as well. So those appraisers go into a little bit more depth in regards to looking at items on an appraisal.
And important to chime in, because I didn't understand this, obviously, and we're not in the real estate market. You guys do this every day, but you can't order. I mean, you order an appraisal, but you can't choose who the appraiser is. Like, it's supposed to be like this independent party. Obviously, because otherwise, then Craig, you would have your go-to guy.
Right? Yeah, well, and that's how it used to be, right? So that's how it was,
right,
10 years ago, and it changed, I think, in 2012 or so. I don't quite remember when it changed, but yes, today we have to use a third-party appraisal company, and I have no idea who the appraiser is. No idea.
Yeah, and that's important, right? One of the things we're talking about is, if you're looking for a mortgage, if you're looking for that guy, don't just look for the interest rate, right? Because the relationship is that much more important. Not to get through all. I'm getting through it right now because my mortgage guy, Craig, I would love for you to be it, but it's a jumbo loan in Colorado, and you guys do jumbo loans in Texas, correct?
Correct.
So, I had to go find a new my new Craig, and I'll shout out to Buck. Buck has been amazing. But yeah, the VIP mortgages company we used, they're local and they know the land, they know the contractors. They don't know who's going to appraise, but they have all these other pieces to be able to kind of guide me through this purchase. And so I'm not just using a realtor, which is amazing. I'm also using a lawyer because it's a big transaction. And a lot of people, I think that a house is the biggest purchase in most people's life. Right? It's the biggest financial decision they'll ever make. But it's been so important to have this relationship with this guy that's gonna come like hang out. I mean, we're friends now, just because I want that. And I think that's what you should look for, right? Like somebody like you, Craig, that builds that rapport, because you don't just sell the mortgage. Like, what are some of the downsides of not having a relationship?
Well, okay, so here's a great example. So I live in Houston, in actually what's called the Loop, right? So I know it very well. I know the schools. I know the neighborhoods. I know all that. You take me out to the suburbs, right? You take me out to the Woodlands. You take me out to Katy. I don't know the schools there. I listen. I can do those loans, but I'm not an expert. I can't fight battles in those areas. I can fight your battles in my area. So that's very important. The other thing that's very important as well is that with a company like mine, we're a small company. We're a bank, and we're going to keep your loan. We're not going to sell it off to a third-party company. We actually service your loan. So if you ever have an issue, 6 months from now, a year from now, a year and a half from now, you just call me and say, hey, I have an issue with whatever, and then I can email one person and get it resolved. When you use some of these larger companies or these servicing companies, and you have an issue, good luck to you, because there is no connection. You're going to be transferred. We've all done it, right? You call and you get transferred to 10 different people, and it's never resolved. And it's a nightmare.
So Jennifer, I'm going to throw this back at you. Yeah, totally. I know. I can see Jennifer ready to speak. Add to it, Jennifer.
So listen to me. It's a complicated process. You've got professionals working for you. Pick a loan officer that answers his phone, his or her phone. That you don't have to go through 3 people to get an answer. It's so important. It's important for both sides of the process. And shout out to Craig. He answers his phone every single time. So.
Yeah, and that's important, right? Because you're going through the process of trying to help the homebuyer. You're negotiating the house, but if you don't have the money, if you don't know that's going to be set up, you're just climbing up a one-way ladder that's not going to help, right? And I really, really think it's important to have the pre-qualified. I think that's that the relationship, but just be ready to make an offer, right? Here's a great question. I'm going to pull this on. The house is not seeing any activity, buy activity. How do I reposition my house? So Barbara Blades is asking, what are ways to reposition a home?
Well, you need to make sure it's priced right. You need to price is the big key, and if it's in a, that's what's going to get people in the house. So location's very important. Staging it might help if you've got some areas that don't make sense, or you can to help people visualize what that is. Also, decluttering and depersonalizing will help a lot, but price is the big issue. Absolutely.
And this is a great follow-up question. She's also asking, well, how long is too long for the house to be sitting on the market?
That just depends on where you are. I don't know. I mean, I'm in Galveston this week, and we're looking at houses that have been on the market maybe 5 days and they're gone.
Crazy.
So so if you see a house that's on the market for 30 days and other things are leaving in 5, then there's probably it's overpriced or there's something going on there.
I'd like to chime in. Typically, if a house is on the market for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, it's the price.
Even
yeah,
shorter
or
than
like
that.
the one we were looking at, right? There was one that had mold that was keep recurring mold, right? Yeah. Another big red flag that I've seen, especially out here, is if it falls out of contract, right? Why did it come out of contract, right? It might have been the price, but obviously something happened in the appraisal or in the inspections. And that's a great question for you, Craig. So I'm in the process of getting the appraisal, right? So if the appraisal is lower than my offer, what are the options?
Oh, well, all right. So one is you go back to the seller and you say the appraisal came in low. Will you lower the price, or adjust the price, or meet the price? 2 is you terminate the transaction. 3 is if you really want to buy the house, you got to pay the difference, then plus your down
cash
payment, plus your 20% down or whatever it is. So in an ideal world, the seller will work with you on adjusting the sales price, but they don't. Sometimes they just don't do that. If there's multiple offers on the property, and they'll say, "Hey, this other guy will pay more money for it."
Cash. Yeah.
You just got to bite the bullet or walk away.
Yeah. If somebody is coming in a cash offer, they don't need an appraisal. They're valuing it at whatever they want, and I guess that's why they say cash is king, right? So that's an important distinction. There's another question somebody's asking is, if there's a home that you love, but it's already under contract, before you can make an offer, can you still put an offer in, Jennifer?
Absolutely. Yes, because it's a long road from signing the contract to the closing table. You never know what happens. So if you really love a home, put a backup offer in. Absolutely. But just be prepared that you may not get it. I wouldn't stop looking. I would keep that in your back pocket and continue the search.
And that's a good question, one, for you, Jennifer. So you have a backup offer on that. You can put another offer, and then you can terminate your backup offer whenever, correct?
Absolutely.
Because it hasn't been accepted.
Right. And you need to do that in writing. A lot of people just let it fall off the wayside, but ask your realtor to put it in writing to make sure it's totally clear and you have no more legal bounds to that property.
Great. And actually, that's a really important point. You guys, this is a humongous financial transaction. Get it in writing. Everything.
Everything. Yes.
Right. And writing can be as simple as a text message, right? But at least get something so you can go back to it and say, no, you said this, right? You said the rate was this, or you said that the inspection was going to be done this, or whatever, right? Or that we could terminate because of X, Y, Z. In our case, we're going with a transactional lawyer because it's a big property, but we also hired a lawyer. And man, this lawyer is pulling out deeds from other people telling us when the well was created. I mean, it's just all this stuff that you wouldn't even imagine how complex, right, this type of transaction can be. A lot of realtors, especially in suburban areas, you guys can do a lot of those that help, right? Because you'll work with a title company. And tell us how you both work with a title company. Craig, start with that. Like, what's the relationship between the mortgage and the title company?
So I don't really get to pick the title company on purchases. That's not on refinances. I do, but it is crucial to have a good relationship with title companies because questions do come up in regards to legality of title work, of borrowers coming on and off off title, previous transactions, cash out transactions, second mortgage transactions, SBA transactions. It's important to be able to reach out to somebody and ask questions, somebody who's on your side. I work with some of the best title companies in the city. And definitely, if anybody ever needs a title company, I'm happy to refer them. But it is crucial, and this is again why you want to go with somebody local who knows the local title company. They know the ins and outs of the area. It's very important.
So Jennifer, what is the title? A lot of people don't know how are you transferring? Why do you get title insurance? What is this?
Okay, I'm going to go back just a little bit. Please don't do it in text. Get a form. There's a form for everything. So let's fill out the form. Sorry. But a title just says you own the property out. That's yours. It's there's no question on who owns that piece of property. That's yours. And that's what the title company does. And again,
they do
pick
a
a title
history,
company that answers the phone.
Yeah, they do the history of everybody else, all the liens on the property, anything, because you may buy the property and then find out, hey, there's this other loan or lien or something, and if you don't, if you don't go through that, that's like an insurance policy. So
absolutely,
who should choose the title company, the buyer or the seller? It's
usually whoever pays for it has final choice of the title company. So. Sometimes if you're a buyer, and I always pick my favorite title company, Alamo Title with Kim Wilkie.
Plug.
And plug. And sometimes the seller will come back and say, no, we've already picked our title company. And we're paying for it. So you're really you're at their discretion. So, but I always pick ours, and they change it sometimes.
Here's a great question from Kim Wilkie. What if everybody feels the appraisal is wrong?
So this is where having a loan officer with experience comes to play. So, and then knowing the area. So for example, there's a new construction house 2 streets over from me that came in about $150,000 low. And it was with one of the big banks. And the realtor was saying, hey, the value's right. I know my neighborhood. I know the value is the sales price, I should say, was right. The appraisal was wrong. His current bank wouldn't adjust. They switched banks to me. We provided the information to the appraiser. When he went to the inspection, the realtor said, here are the proper comps. And we were able to get the house reappraised at the higher value. And they switched the loan from the other bank to my bank. But that's because I know the area. If I don't know the area, I can't do it. But you really need to have people who understand how to read an appraisal and why it's wrong. And simply saying, hey, the house 5 miles down the road sold for more money. Well, that's 5 miles down the road. So a real quick tangent. An appraisal is like a dartboard. Your house is the bullseye, and the appraiser is supposed to look in the first ring around that bullseye and go, what's sold in the last 3 months in the same neighborhood. And if there's nothing in that ring, they go to the next ring, right? And the next ring is what is sold in the last 6 months, a little bit further out. And then the next ring, what's sold in the last 9 months, a little bit further out. And they keep expanding it to get the whole dartboard. I think it's a good metaphor. And you have a bad appraiser when there's nothing around the bullseye. When everything's on the outskirts, that's often what makes a bad appraisal. And
Jennifer, do you get involved with some of that as well? And as a realtor, I mean, how do you walk them through their appraisal and say, hey, how do you renegotiate, or how do you bring that back to the seller?
If I'm a seller, so if I would provide the comps that I used as backup for how we price the house, any information on the house on what upgrades or special features or what makes it more valuable. That's my job to submit that to the appraiser.
Perfect. Well, great question now is, hey, Craig, on you, it's got your name on it. What are your loan programs? Why should we buy now? And we got a bunch of graphs on this. So you tell me what graph you want and we'll talk about it.
So where I'm fortunate is I work for a bank that has a lot of programs. So I have conventional FHA, VA. I have jumbo construction, physician loans, asset dissipation loans, a whole bunch of loans. But what Gabe's showing you right now, and I wanted you guys to show you guys, these are what the mortgage rates looked like 10 years ago. So this is spanning a 10-year chart of mortgage rates. So you can see it's peaks and valleys, right? So you want to avoid buying a house in the peak if you can, but you definitely want to buy in a valley. And we today are in a valley. So if you look all the way to the right, you see that line's just under 3%, and that's where rates are today.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody purchased a house in say 2012 or 14 or 16 or 18 or in the beginning of 19, their rates are much higher then than they are today. So if you did purchase at any of those times, it might be time for you to look at refinancing. And this is a 10-year glance. I have a little bit more zoomed in 5-year glance for you. So this is over the last 5 years. So you can see how it really starts to fall in that July 2019. It dips there right after January 2020. It spikes back up. That dip was right when COVID, when the shutdown happened, and then it spiked up because the banks were overwhelmed, and it's back down again. And then there's like a 1-year view as well. That goes back 1 year.
Oh yeah, hold on one second. Let me see if I got the 1 year. There it is.
So this is going back 12 months. So if you can see, if you bought a house in September of 2019, your rate would have been around 3.5%, and today again you're under 3%. And that half a point is a big deal when buying a house. That could be the difference of $100,000 in value. So, and guys, it's still a great time to refinance as well. So if you're above, I would say 3.75%, 4%, I think refinance is mandatory.
So important, and it's true, right? These rates, it's not just because the rates low. People always ask you, "What's the rate?" You're like, "Don't ask me what the rate," because it's based on your credit score. It's based on a lot of other pieces. But you can always know not the rate, but you can know what you're pre-approved for, right? Like what you can afford.
Correct. So rates are just it's a Polaroid picture in time. So today I can quote you say 3%, and tomorrow it could be 2.875%. The next day it could be 2.75. The next day it could be back up to 3. Every single day is different. And that's what locking in a rate is. That's locking in a rate.
And when you lock, that's important. I wanted to, that was a great question. Somebody's asking, when you lock in a rate, how long is it locked for?
So that is up to your purchase or your refinance. Mm-hmm. So if you're closing in 30 days, you only need a 30-day lock. If you're closing in 2 months, you need a 60-day lock. If you're closing in 3 months, you need a 90-day lock, right? And the longer the lock goes out, the higher the rate can go.
Wow. Okay.
Coincidentally, the mortgage professor, Craig Levin, has a new video on this coming out. Coming to a Facebook page near you. It's already been filmed. It's being edited as we speak.
Perfect. Guys, such important information. Love it. I think so many people don't understand that this is a really fast-moving market. The fact that there's COVID still, like properties are being shown differently. People are doing more research online. But I can't stress that enough, what Jennifer said earlier. Be prepared. Right. And then talk to somebody like Craig, have the numbers, know what you can afford, know what you're willing to afford. It's scary. It's a big purchase. Right. And have people like Craig and Jennifer in your team, because they're going to help make it easier. They're going to help you understand all these things, because it is a scary, I'm going through it right now. And at some point you get tunnel vision and you can't read these 50 pages of contracts that are coming left and right just for the well, or whatever it is. So have somebody that can, be in your corner. My favorite part of the show is 3 things you can do now. And so we'll start with you, Jennifer. I'll take Craig off the screen and just put our concierge realtor, Jennifer, 3 things you can do now.
Well, thanks so much. This has been so much fun. So you need to get a pre-approval if you're buying. That's the first step. Call Craig. I swear to God, he's really good. His head's going to explode, but he really is good. And be prepared to make an offer. Don't dilly-dally. If you see something, you love it, and manage your expectations. If you don't like the wallpaper, that can be changed. Don't look at the cosmetic. Look at structure and location. Those are my 3 things.
Awesome. Great advice. All right, Craig, I'm putting you on the screen. 3 things now for you. Go.
Well, also definitely get pre-approved. That's absolutely crucial to know that you can afford the house you want to buy and you will be qualified. Find the right lender. Again, I do jumbo loans. Not everybody does. Don't go to a company that doesn't offer jumbo loans. They offer you 2 mortgages as opposed to 1. that's not beneficial to you when you could have just gotten one low rate. And three is watch the market, right? Peaks and valleys. You got to know when's it a peak and when's it a valley, and you want to take advantage of that. And right now we're in a valley, so it's a great time to buy or refinance.
Great. Right. Great advice. I mean, I think it's just so timely because it is a moving market and the rates are low. That's probably what's actually pushing it further is people are like, oh my God, I can afford more. Right. Or this is the time to, like you said, buy when it's low. Right. Yeah. And the lowest rates have ever been was a couple of weeks ago. Right. Like, wasn't there some event that you were
Yes,
talking about?
early August was just absolutely insane.
Mhm.
Where rate I was giving out 2 5s and 2 6s and 2 7s on 30-year fixes,
Jeez.
which I've never done in my life. We're still low, but not quite that low.
Right. No, so this is the time to refinance. Well, and refinance is a different process. You don't necessarily go with a realtor. You can just go with an officer, loan officer like you, a mortgage broker. What's the timeline to refinance? Because if it's so hot, I mean, can you do it in a week? Can you do it in a month? I mean, what are you seeing?
Yeah. For us, we're looking at 60 days. So if we start the process today, we're closing somewhere in November. I'm sure there's some other smaller companies out there that can knock it out in less time, but you're probably not getting the same level or quality of service that we're offering.
Guys, so good having you on the show. I love the input. I love the energy. I mean, I think it's so important to really help people get through this, and especially the new environment. It's a combination of people want to get out of the house, people are changing homes, people are moving away from central, like downtown, they're moving into suburbia. Because if they're going to be a home, like, they're not have realized like how important it is to have a bigger living room or like an extra room as an office, right? Jennifer, are you seeing some of that exodus to like the suburbia?
Absolutely. They can go
Yeah.
anywhere they want and work from anywhere.
Exactly. I mean, look, we're looking at going to Colorado. So, from the RV, won't say where. This is Gabriel with Expert35, guys. Thank you so much for being on the show. We'd love to hear back from you guys as this market keeps changing. And thank you for all the great advice. We'll see you guys soon. All right.
All right. Thanks,
Gabriel. Thanks, Craig.
Bye, Jennifer.
All right, guys. That was Craig from loan officer from First United and Jennifer Johnson. Guys, we'd love to have you back. See you guys soon.
For a better tomorrow and a better today. Let's come together and together we will find a way. You got questions, we got solutions. You got problems, we got resolutions. Visit expert35.com. No need to worry, just remain calm. No more pain, no more sorrows. We provide solutions for a better tomorrow.